Fallout Equestria Survivors Guild, Chapter 9, Part 2.
So, did you two behave yourselves?
Ark asked as we joined the others at the stable saloon for dinner that evening.
We didn't do anything like that.
I said as my face turned red again.
Cherry just wanted me to help her with something, that's all. Yeah, that's all.
Cherry said with a blush as we waited for our food.
So, how was school today, Claire? It was okay, I guess. It was kinda weird, really. I guess I just wasn't expecting it to be so...
Claire started to say, trying to think of the words.
Explicit?
Cherry asked and she nodded.
Well, unfortunately the whole system in Stable 48 is to be geared towards educating foals to do their selected job from a young age. It's not really designed to bring in outsiders for the various divisions, which can make things, awkward. Chief Blackfire just went ahead and put me on duty. I guess it's because of my experience on the surface, I guess?
Silver said with a shrug.
Mind you, security doesn't do much other than protect the lower levels these days because, well, the Enclave handles most of it.
Yeah, that figured. Of course, the Enclave would want to keep things more under their control. I was starting to wonder how much authority even the Overmare really had anymore.
Yeah, things have changed a lot since I was last here.
Cherry said with a sigh as she took a bite of her food.
And I don't like it. There are good ponies in the stable that... they don't deserve to be subjected to live under the Enclave.
Well, I was glad at least one pony had gotten the message. I smiled a little and wrapped my foreleg comfortingly around Cherry. I half expected Ark to make a snide comment, but she was surprisingly quiet. She had to have been thinking about caramel corn right now, but we still had no idea where she was. I had to briefly consider the possibility that her Pip-Buck tag could be tracked, but that would require us to travel to Stable 66, and that wasn't possible at the moment. Plus, there was no guarantee that it would even work. I sighed a little and gave Ark a reassuring smile. Well, well, if it isn't the Dashite, the stallion's voice said as we looked up to see a rough-looking Pegasus stallion dressed in an Enclave uniform glaring at me. I would have thought you'd have enough sense to stay in your wing with the other broodmares.
Yeah, because if there's one thing I'm known for, it's having a lot of sense.
I muttered under my breath before speaking up again.
What do you want? I'm not in the mood for dealing with you right now.
Well, too bad, he said with a sneer as he grabbed me. I bet I can get it arranged to get you on the cycle. I'd love to get to spend as much time torturing you as I could, you traitor.
So what, 30 seconds?
I said with a wicked smirk.
And that's if you could even find your stallion hood.
What's that supposed to... Wait, hey!
And I see your brain is even smaller.
I said with a smirk.
Took a minute to register, huh? I guess the Enclave remnant doesn't recruit ponies for their brains.
Oh, that's it, you little bitch. I'm gonna... The stallion started to say when he felt my hind hoof connect with the stallion hood, and he released me and fell over in pain.
Don't bother us again, or next time I'll geld you instead,
I said with a growl that made the stallion whimper and shamble off.
Remind me to stay on your good side, Scootaloo,
Silver said with a chuckle.
Though I'm worried that the Enclave may cause a problem because of that. Yeah, they probably will,
I said with a sigh as I returned to my seat and took another bite of food.
Let's just hope that this situation will work in our favor, for once.
The others nodded and we continued eating. It didn't take long for the Enclave's response. As soon as we left the saloon, we were approached by two members of stable security. They said that I was to be escorted to the Overmare's office. I told the others that I'd catch up with them later again, but I had to admit I was a little worried about what was awaiting me in the office as we walked towards it. The two security ponies didn't say a word as we headed up to the stairs and into the administration wing, which left me alone with my thoughts. So the incident had been completely unprovoked and the stallion had threatened and clearly attempted to rape me, so I could easily argue self-defense. There were witnesses like my friends and other ponies that were in the saloon at the time. Maybe everything would be okay. Right? I reached the door to the Overmare's office and was ushered into where Overmare Lilac and a Pegasus stallion dressed in power armor that covered all but his head is waited along with the stallion from the saloon.
So, Miss Scootaloo, I have been informed of the recent incident in the saloon,
Lilac said as she folded her forehoofs in front of her.
Private Updraft has informed me of what happened. However, I am willing to hear your side of the story.
Against my better judgment, the Pegasus stallion commented, though he shot a glare at the private. The Enclave is, however, interested in maintaining good relations with the ponies in Stable 48. But, Colonel, she's... Updraft started to protest. I am aware of who she is, Private, the Colonel said. This must be Colonel Twister, the pony that was mentioned before by Violet Star. The President has stated that she is to be treated like any pony else in the stable until she says otherwise. Okay, that surprised me a bit. Why would the President of the Enclave care about what happened to me? Something about all this smelled fishy, but I wasn't about to look a gift horse in the mouth at this point. I took a deep breath and started talking.
Okay, so I was in the saloon with my friends when Private Updraft approached us. He threatened to torture me and use me when the breeding cycle began. Then he grabbed me and threatened to rape me before you assaulted me? Is this true, Scootaloo?
Lilac asked, and she and Twister looked at me.
If he means did I kick him, well, I did,
I said.
But he was trying to attack me, and I acted out of self-defense against an unprovoked attack.
That's absurd! Updraft protested. I would never do such a thing!
Really? Because we have a witness that says otherwise,
Lilac said, and Pimento came into the room, making Updraft's eyes go wide.
Why don't you tell us what you saw, Pimento?
This is highly irregular, Twister said.
He's my son. I trust him,
Lilac said. I gulped a little. I just had a hope that he was gonna tell the truth. He tried to attack her, Pimento said simply. She wasn't doing anything to provoke him at all. He just went up to her table and, well, started harassing her.
Do we need more witnesses, Colonel, or are you satisfied?
Lilac said as she looked at the Colonel for a long moment. Fine, I'm satisfied, Twister said with a grumble. Alright, Private, you are suspended until further notice and confined to your quarters pending a military tribunal. You are to report to your quarters immediately. These two will make sure that this is carried out. Updraft grumbled and was taken away by the security ponies that had escorted me to the office with Twister close behind me after shooting one more look my way. I was a bit surprised by what happened, but at least it helped me. He didn't hurt you, did he? A voice asked, and it took me a moment to realize that it was Pimento talking to me.
Just my pride. I'll be okay,
I said.
Thank you for your help back there.
Oh, you're welcome, he said. Do you mind if I escort you back to the breeder wing?
Sure,
I said, and we walked out together.
You're not exactly what I expected to have, to admit.
What Cherry said earlier, well, it made me think, he said quietly. She's not wrong. The Enclave has left their citizens behind for breeding, but there's a condition. Any children born here are to be raised on their ideals and not on ours. It's made some ponies in administration uneasy about the agreement, but they've kept their word so far.
They certainly have,
I said, which surprised me. The Enclave didn't strike me as being honest.
I wonder why.
Well, I don't know. It almost feels like they're playing a bigger game, Pimento said with a shake of his head. I'm sorry I wasn't able to give you more information. The Enclave has been, well, secretive. We came in for a stopping outside of the breeder wing, and he turned and looked at me for a moment. Scootaloo, I don't know what kind of relationship you and Cherry have.
We're just friends, I swear,
I said, blushing deeply at the implication.
I mean, she's a wonderful mare, but...
I get it. I'm just glad that she found a friend like you, Pimento said with a smile as he gave me a nod. Just... tell her that she was right, and that I'm sorry. Tell her that she was the smart one. We all should have left, like you said. I looked at him for a moment and nodded in understanding.
Okay, Pimento, I'll tell her.
Thank you, Scootaloo.
Oh, don't thank me yet. We still have a long way to go,
I said before I headed into the breeder wing.
You're joking, right? Pimento really said that?
Cherry asked as we met up in our shared quarters.
He did. I think he's starting to change his mind about what's been going on,
I said with a sigh as I laid back on the bed and stretched my wings out.
This might help us out, really. We could use all the help that we can get to make it out of here. Yeah, I know,
Cherry said as she placed a hoof on her belly.
It's just strange. Most ponies in here don't even think about this kind of thing. We're just here to reproduce, to keep the population maintained and, well, entertained. I've never heard of another mare who did what, well, I did. Well, change isn't really created by ponies who stay and maintain the status quo,
I said with a smile.
It's created by ponies who are brave enough to challenge what they believe is wrong and stand for what is right.
Cherry smiled at me and I got her hooves and trotted over to my bed.
Like you did, Dashite? Yeah, like I did. Let's just hope that you don't wind up the same way,
I said as I looked at her.
I left my family behind because I was exiled. I had a husband, a daughter, good ponies that deserve better than what I gave them. Well, I'm sure you did fine.
Cherry said as she nuzzled me gently and laid down next to me.
You told me about your descendant, remember? If she doesn't serve the Enclave, then maybe you did something right.
I smiled a little and nodded as I wrapped my wings gently around the pink mare again.
Yeah, I'd like to think that I did, but I still wish that I had been there to see my daughter grow up. Never give up on your family, Cherry. Family is the most important thing in the world.
Cherry smiled as she wrapped her forelegs around me gently.
Scootaloo, I don't know if we'll ever be more than friends, but I want you to help me with my daughter. I don't want to do this alone. Will you be her godmother?
I was a bit surprised at the request. In all my time here, even after I had met Serenity, I haven't really thought of the idea of raising a foal again. Cherry had made quite the request because she trusted me with the most important thing in Equestria, to her. I smiled and hugged her.
I'll do it, Cherry. I'll help you take care of her, I promise. You're my friend, and I promise that I'll be there for you. Both of you.
Cherry smiled and closed her eyes as we held each other.
Is it okay if we stay like this for another night? We can sleep like this as often as you want,
I said with a smile as she rested her head onto my chest. I soon drifted off to sleep, enjoying the feeling of warmth as I held the mare close to me. The world was changing for both of us, but for this one moment, we were there for one another. And it was wonderful.